For countless generations, human beings have been settling their disputes through the use of an enigmatic tradition that dates back as far as ancient Egypt. The ancient Egyptians used this practice in which they would shape their hands into various different contortions, usually to get rid of their arthritis, and then they would shake them in front of each other, and then whoever had the right hand contortion that got rid of their arthritis, they're the one that won. In their day, it was known as Rochambeau, which actually was the Egyptian word for arthritis. But nowadays, we know the game as rock, paper, scissors. And it is called this, as you can probably guess, because it involves some of the most powerful natural forces in the universe. It involves a rock, it involves a piece of paper, and it involves a pair of scissors. The game itself, many people have claimed that it's all about luck. It's just a matter of picking the right thing and hoping that the other person doesn't pick the thing that counters your thing. And there is some math to do with it, but who does math? Math is stupid. I hate math. If you want to win every single time at rock, paper, scissors, you can. And you don't have to do any math to do it. All you need to know is that rock beats everything else all the time. And that might sound confusing because everybody knows what the traditional formula is for rock, paper, scissors. You know, the rock beats the scissors, the rock destroys the scissors cut the paper, and then the paper covers the rock. But here's the thing though. The rock destroying the scissors and the scissors cutting the paper are evidence that in order to win at rock, paper, scissors, the objective is to completely destroy the opposing player's object. If you pick scissors and the other person picks paper, your scissors cut their paper, thereby destroying their paper. If you pick rock and they pick scissors, your rock crushes their scissors, thereby destroying their scissors and rendering their scissors unable to function normally as scissors. However, if you pick paper and they pick rock, and you cover their rock with your paper, covering the rock with your paper does not destroy the rock, nor does it damage the rock's physical integrity. Covering a rock with a piece of paper will not damage the rock in any way, nor will it inhibit the rock or prevent it from doing anything else. The rock will still be able to move in any direction with the paper on it. In fact, having a coating of paper on the rock will actually slightly improve its physical durability, as the extra layer of paper will be able to absorb any physical impacts before they hit the rock. So in fact, covering a rock with a piece of paper does not defeat the rock. Paper does not beat rock. Since paper is, as we have always known, the only thing that can destroy rock in this game, and I have just proven that that is actually incorrect, there is nothing that can beat rock in the original rock, paper, scissors, which means rock beats scissors and rock beats paper, or at the very least remains neutral with paper. Now, it's been established at this point that the rock can already beat the paper and the scissors, which by default makes it the strongest object in the standard game of rock, paper, scissors. But what if we bumped it up and we included the Rock, Paper, Scissors expansion pack, the Rock, Paper, Scissors Lizard Spock edition? Now, this expansion pack includes two new objects, a lizard and the Star Trek character Mr. Spock. And they function very differently from the original roster of the Rock, Paper, and Scissors. The dynamics between these new objects are very different. However, we don't need to know any of that. All we're focusing on is the rock. We have to establish the fact that the rock is the strongest object, and even with the addition of two new objects, this still holds up. So we already know that the rock destroys the scissors and cannot be destroyed by the paper, which makes it stronger than the scissors or the paper. Against the lizard, the rock is also able to crush the lizard. Now, we don't know exactly what lizard this is. There are many species of lizards on Earth, and considering we have a Star Trek character, Mr. Spock, and Star Trek takes place in space, we may also be including extraterrestrial lizards, which may be even larger and might be more resilient to rock impacts. However, we also don't know the exact size of this rock. We don't know what the rock is made out of, so we don't know how much force this rock can output. However, it is safe to assume that if the lizard is some sort of small lizard, maybe less than a foot or so, and the rock is, again, a small, medium-sized rock, maybe a foot or larger, the rock will certainly be able to destroy the lizard, especially with repeated impacts. So we know now that the rock can destroy everything in the original Trinity and can destroy the lizard, which leaves Mr. Spock. Now, in the expansion pack, it is explained that Mr. Spock is capable of defeating the rock using his phaser. But this is where the technicalities of Star Trek weaponry come into play. It is important to note that the phaser that Mr. Spock is most likely using is a Federation phaser intended for use against other living creatures. It doesn't have the same power as the phasers that are found on Federation starships and are intended to destroy heavily plated enemy starships. It is a phaser exclusively designed for anti-personnel combat. Knowing this, it is very unlikely that this phaser has enough power to destroy a rock, especially if the rock is comprised of some extremely dense minerals like granite. It is impossible for any sort of condensed light weapon to damage that rock to any significant degree. Now, if Spock cannot destroy the rock with his phaser, and he most certainly doesn't have the physical strength to destroy the rock otherwise, that means that the rock can destroy Spock, because if the rock is being thrown with sufficient force, it will most certainly kill Spock, and Spock not being able to destroy the rock or protect himself from the rock's impact will die if he encounters the rock and has to engage it. So likewise, the rock can destroy the lizard, can destroy Spock, can destroy the paper, and can destroy the scissors, which means that in every game of rock, paper, scissors, the rock always wins. Nothing beats the rock. Now, of course, there is the possibility that your opponent picks the rock, and if that's the case, it's a tie, since the rocks are of equal infinite power, and therefore will just annihilate each other, and nothing will happen. However, it's safe to assume that the other person doesn't know this trick. They don't know the superiority the rock has over the other objects in the game. So you can pick the rock every single time and win every single time, and just as long as you explain yourself, it's the perfect way to play rock, paper, scissors. You have a 4 out of 5 chance of winning in the expanded version and a 2 out of 3 chance of winning in the regular rock, paper, scissors. And those are some very good odds. If you ever find yourself in a situation where you need to settle an argument, ask the other person to play rock, paper, scissors with you, and then use the trick I just showed you and win. You win every single time, using nothing but the rock.